say this every time, but this week we are not in the shop. Listen, I just edited 2 videos that you guys already saw. Both of them started this way. One was the KLR video, and the other one was the Goldwing, which is an 82, right?
Yes.
And we're doing it again. What are we doing?
Noodles here has found a, what year is it?
86.
86 Suzuki, what?
Cavalcades, I'll put the actual name of it up on the screen so you guys can see, because I'm not familiar with it. But basically, it is a 1400cc touring bike, very similar to Stitch's 1100cc Goldwing. And like you guys saw in the Goldwing video, we were talking about finding a touring bike for me as well. We kind of put that on hold because we had some other stuff going on. But I'm scrolling through Marketplace like we always do, because that's what we do. And this motorcycle popped up, and I immediately messaged the guy and messaged Stitches. And the guy was real good about it. I gave him my phone number. He messaged me back. We had a phone conversation. He's the second owner of the bike. Bought it from the original owner. 10,000 miles on it. The bike currently has 19,000. If you guys know anything about these touring bikes, they go for hundreds of thousands of miles. You know, they've got 6-digit odometers for a reason. They're meant to do hundreds of thousands of miles. He said he's driven it all over our state, 2 states down, 2 states over. He said he's put some miles on it, but he's got some medical conditions. So he's letting the bike go for an absolute steal. Another one of those absolute steals. And I called Stitches and I said, hey, you want to take the diesel 2500 for its maiden drive? And obviously Stitches said yes. So we've got trailer hooked up in the back that you guys can't see because trailer life. And we're gonna make our way. We gotta stop and take out some cash. So we'll check back with the guys in a few minutes.
Sounds good.
So this is the bike. It is a 1986 Suzuki Cavalcade. I've never heard of this before. Stitches, have you?
I've seen them, but I didn't know what it was called.
This thing is ballin'. What do you say?
It'll definitely be interesting.
Down, double checking the straps right now, and we're gonna head home and we'll tell you more about it later. We went through, really didn't do too much of it. Figured out how to open it up. We checked out the radio. I took the battery off of it, and I put the battery on the charger, and I opened up this box because there was water in this box. So we've got parts of the box sitting out here just airing up, drying. I brought one of the spare batteries that I have for the Scrambler from my house over to the shop, just so we can see if we can get this motor to turn over. Gas does smell a little bit sour, but we're gonna get you guys set up here, and we'll show you what we find. Yeah, so we picked this thing up yesterday. I paid less than $700 for this bike. And it was an absolute steal. It's got 18,583 miles on it, so barely broken in. What's the mileage on the Goldwing? Can you see it right now, or is it too high?
17,585.
Stitches has 17,585, so I have 1,000 miles more on this bike than he does, so it's really not much. You know, I think between the two of us, we really walked into a couple great deals on these bikes. This is like first looks at this bike. I mean, I haven't even opened that luggage bag. The rear trunk I opened because we have like this fuse box for this side here. We put this in the speaker grill covers while we were transporting it, but I don't know what's in this. I just figured out how to open up the radio. I had to read the owner's manual. The bike came with the owner's manual. It came with a couple other cool things we'll show you here in a little bit. I don't know if it's gonna fire off of this gas. I'm hoping it will. There's a little fuse block here, fuse box, what have you. And then on top of that is terminals for a tender. We have power. We have neutral. Ooh, it fired.
You hit the button?
Yep. It's alive! So she runs. That's a good step. Got to do an oil change fluids, but I'm gonna dig into this thing a little bit and see what cool features it has and make a checklist of crap we need to do on it. So we know it runs. We'll check back with you guys in a minute. So here's the odometer. Got 18,583 miles. We've got a little cubby here on the left. Cubby on the right. This one's rusty from these nuts and bolts. The battery's underneath. And it also came with a built-in connector for a battery tender. This is all going to get cleaned up. I've got the grills for the speakers. Here's the radio. This definitely looks like an aftermarket radio to me. So we'll look into the wiring of this, seeing if I can get something a little bit newer, a little bit nicer. Fuel tank is right here. Doesn't smell the greatest. Seats are adjustable. I think I still have to open up this side. I haven't even been in this thing yet, like I said. Trim these for something. Spark plugs. Yeah, they might have been new spark plugs at one point, but they're not anymore. And in this box, we have another wet towel thing, or liner. I took this side off. Like I said, you can still see some water sitting in here. So we're going to try and figure out how we can rectify that so that it doesn't leak. I don't know if there's supposed to be a rubber seal or something on here, but we'll figure that out. But I have the owner's manual. It's actually in the 2500 diesel right now. But one of the things the guy gave me, and this is cool, you've got the mirror and it's got a map light. Although right now the map light's not on. I don't know if the bulb's burned out or, oh, map light is on. Cool. It's on a switch. Here's the speaker grill covers. But this is the cool stuff that the guy hooked me up with. He had the original soft bags, the luggage bags, and I mean, they're brand new. One of them obviously is still in the plastic here, for the rear trunk, and the two luggage bags for the sides. So these fit in here, and you can put your luggage in there while you're traveling and make it easier so you're not just bringing stuff up. And then this one is fit to size for the trunk. Yeah, we'll go through and I'm gonna check this thing out. I'm gonna get some gas in it, put some fresh gas in it, pull the old plate off of it, and kind of go from there. What do you think, sir?
Sounds good.
What do you think about those bags?
Terrible.
You've got the same ones for years.
I know, mine are better. They're Honda.
Yeah, shut up. So, and then obviously here's the Goldwing. You guys already saw the video that we're in the middle of shooting for the Goldwing, where we did the timing belt and all that stuff, so I'm not going to bore you. But as of right now, in the shooting of the video of this one, Goldwing's here. So we're hoping to have these both done, dusted, and ready to go by the riding season this year, so we can have a really awesome time and do some serious miles. Cool. Double cool. Alright, so as you guys saw in the time lapse, I gave this bike a quick wipe down. This wasn't like a substantial cleaning. It's still dirty, and I still have to do those top covers there. But when I get something new, I like to just wipe it down, clean the grime and muck off of it, see kind of what the paint looks like underneath. I see some spots that might need a little bit of work. Back here, super sun faded. Here, it's sun faded too. You can see the marks in the paint here. But we've got some good gloss up on the tank. Front fairings look pretty good, and it kind of gives me an opportunity to look the bike over and learn some of its features. Like I noticed, the air vents are here. There's supposed to be vents that let air flow from the engine compartment to your legs, but I'm not really sure where they are. I'll have to read the owner's manual a little bit more. I'm not sure if they're talking about these or what. But I'm gonna keep going through and checking this thing out. All right, so with checking the bike over, I removed the front plastics, looked at the owner's manual, which was the other part I said I had for the bike, the original owner's manual for it. And to remove it, you have to undo a Phillips head screw on the bottom by the shiny plastic. It sits right down here. You've got a push pin on this side. You've got a push pin on the other side. It's in a different location. And then you come up here to this tank fairing plastic. You have to turn this counterclockwise to release it. You've got two Phillips head screws here, and then this Phillips head screw that sits at the top of the body plastic. So once you get all those out, what I did is I very gently slid everything back. So I still have these in the tabs for the top fairing piece. And you'll have access to your fuel tank and your air filter. Air filter had a cover on it. It's out like this, 2 wing nuts. I took the wing nuts off and I looked at the air filter. Air filter's filthy. And now I'm checking the spark plugs. I'm gonna pull this spark plug, see how it looks, and then kind of go from there. Cool. Check back with you guys in a little bit. So after pulling one of the spark plugs, a little dark, nothing really too crazy to report about. We are going to be replacing these spark plugs. I got the NGKs in them. They've got PJR 7As.
PJR7A?
Yep, PJR 7A.
Interesting.
So I'll look online. I'll see what specs calling for current technology, because I'm sure the owner's manual is going to have 40-year-old spark plugs that they recommend. What do you think? You think so?
Possible.
So I'm going to put this back in, and we'll put the fairings back on, and I'll continue on my list of stuff I need to buy.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so I think we found a good stopping point for this bike for tonight. Got to order some tune-up stuff: spark plugs, air filter, oil filter, brake pads. Gonna do front and rear. Got to get gear oil. There's a secondary gear oil. I've got to look into that. It's in the owner's manual. Want to get new grips. We're gonna change out all the fluid, brake fluid, all that stuff. It's basically the normal stuff we do when we get machines. We're gonna go through it, tip top, change everything out, put some fresh fuel in her, and run her down the road. See how she does. So I'm gonna get some parts on order, and we'll check back with you guys once they come in. We pulled the old 1980s radio out of this thing. It's really not 1980s. It's probably mid-90s though. I haven't seen one of these since I was a kid. It's a AM/FM cassette with a little handle so you can pull the radio out and bring the radio with you. We're not getting any voltage on it, so we're kind of going through right now. We're gonna pull this bracket out here and see if there's a blown inline fuse or something, because this is quick tonight and we're gonna dig into it for real tomorrow or the next day. All right, I believe it's been 2 days since we pulled the Cavalcade in. I don't remember if we showed you guys disassembly, but we disassembled. There were some 10 mil bolts, 4 of them, 2 on the sides, 2 inside the pocket that hold the radio bezel in place. This bezel's been modified. Last night, Stitches put the motorcycle on the stand. So the motorcycle's up right now. It's on the first lock. Front tire's off the ground. We've got a box of parts in this tote here, and I got a couple more parts in. So first thing I got that I'm going to work on today is this. This is the All Balls Racing rebuild kit for the master cylinder. So I'm going to pull the front master off and I'm going to rebuild it. I also have some front wheel bearings here. Obviously you guys saw tires. We've got brake pads. I've got oil filters. I'm waiting for spark plugs to come in. They're supposed to be here tomorrow. We'll have to take these fairings off to do that. But for right now, I'm going to dig into this front master here, pull it apart, and we're going to rebuild it. All right, so I've got the master cylinder pretty well taken apart here. Stitches decided to shoot the piston at my back. He was pulling the clip, and we don't have a circlip. Pliers small enough to fit inside here. So he used the pick, and it's under spring tension, but you've got a rubber seal that sits on the top. New one's right here. You've got a seal that sits on the side of the piston, which is right here. And inside the master is this seal, this
spring,
and the spring. The new kit, or the kit came with new seals for all 3 spots, a new spring, and a new circlip. So I'm going to dig into it, a little bit of parts cleaner. I'm going to clean this up because this looks absolutely atrocious. I'm going to make sure it's thoroughly cleaned, and I'm going to wipe it with brake fluid, and then I'll reassemble it. So check back with you guys in a minute once it's clean. All right, so we got the master cylinder put back together. It's got all the new seals in it. Stitcher said he had an issue with this seal when he redid the master cylinder on his Vulcan, which there is a video to. I can link it down below. What I did is we have this one pick here that doesn't have a point on it. I don't know if you guys can see it. I use that to just kind of go around very gently around the piston of the master to kind of seat the seal on, because as you guys saw, the piston has like a, at least on this master, the piston has like a spiral in it where it looks like really big threads. So I just went up and I used at an angle to twist it around. And to get the circlip seated, what I did is I took an 11mm socket and I had started the circlip with circlip pliers. And then once it was in this groove here, I made sure it stayed lined up so that the clip holes are facing out this way. And I pushed in by hand with the 11mm socket. Everything was lubricated with brake fluid, and when I was done, when it was fully seated, I pressed around it with a pick to make sure that it was fully seated. Then I put the dust shield on, and yeah. I have to clean up this contact because this is the contact that activates the brake switch on the front master. So I'm going to take a little sandpaper, I'm going to clean this up here, and then we'll reassemble this. I'm going to pull the front brake pads out of the front masters, and I'll put the new brake pads in. I also have the wheel bearings, so we'll probably pull the front tire off and do the wheel bearings today. We got to do tires, and we'll kind of go from there and see what's next. All right, so as you guys can see here, Stitches is pulling the front tire.
Yeah.
This tire's definitely seen better days.
You got my mallet?
No. I think it's in the box.
Yeah.
This is the joys of having a good friend like Stitches.
Where's my mallet?
Like butter.
Didn't want it to go flying. You know?
Yep. You want to show all the checking on that tire?
Cracking?
Yeah. I mean, that's why we changed the tire. That is not safe. 12-12.
Oh, there you go.
So it's 2024, so this is a 12-year-old tire.
It was a good tire though.
It was.
The Metzler.
Metzler Marathon. And it wasn't cooked, I mean.
It's still held there.
Alright, so tire's on. You can see it's right here. Next to little hands, big feet. And next up, we're going to take these calipers off again. Which, like I said in the other clip, we had mounted the calipers up so that we could crack loose the brake lines and then bleed the brake system out, or run the old fluid through the front system. Whoops.
Let's see if we can do this all. I find this to be the most painful part.
Yeah, I would definitely prefer
You
that
want to hold
chair.
that?
Sure. Stay.
Yeah. You want the chair? I was coming to help you.
The worst part's getting the speedo and everything.
I know. That's why I was coming to help you. Yeah, it's moving.
1, 2, Hey, Drew, too.
I'm switching 3.5 and 1x in here. Okay.
That's okay.
Enough.
Straighten.
No! 9! Look back. The impact. Yep. I think that's got the right.
I didn't know what the Ugga Dugga machine was.
Does it have the right socket on it? Give me a different socket from there. So we guess it was actually
I was using the wrench, but it's a 17.
We're supposed to tell them.
Oh, good. I was just about to grab the 17.
All right, next day here, I got the oil drained and changed already. I did that off camera. I've got the luggage bags taken off, the saddlebags on the sides. The rear diff right here, it's a 21 on the bottom for the drain and a 17 on the side. I've got that taken off. The axle bolt's taken off. That was a 24. Saddlebags is 4 10s, 2 on the sides, 2 on the bottom. I've got the brake caliper. There's also a bracket with a cotter pin that holds the brake caliper on the top here. Cotter pin was on the inside on my bike. That was a 14, and the 2 caliper mounting bolts from this piece, it's the spacer and the caliper mounting bracket, were both 14s. Got to figure out how to take this axle out, because like I said, I got the axle nut loose, and I've got that bolt there loose as well. So I'm going to grab stitches out here in a second, and we're going to figure out how to get that caliper free. Or get the other phone SD card filled up, so I had to shoot this on my phone. Let's see. We've got a bunch of crap done on the Cavalcade. The brake caliper for the rear, took it apart, cleaned it, cleaned the bleeders out, put new brake pads in it, cleaned the slides. New tire. About to break the bead on that, and we'll get that tire swapped out for this one. I had issues with the rear brake sticking, so I disassembled this whole assembly here, which cotter pin here. There's a cotter pin on the back side of the brake lever, or not the lever, but the bar that connects to the master. There's a cotter pin that holds this on. There's a pin that goes this way. I took this off. Cotter pin's on the inside. Pulled the footrest off, pulled this arm down, slid that out, took sandpaper, cleaned up in there, greased it. There's like a little section in the middle for grease. To get the rear axle out with these aftermarket, whatever, exhaust mufflers on here, we had to undo the air shocks and raise them up. We took the Schrader valves out of the air lines and let it bleed out, and then put it back. So it's not a big deal. That's almost done. The gear oil has been drained. I have not put new gear oil in for the diff, but I'll do that once we get the tire on and we're reassembling. I still have to do the secondary gear oil as well. That hasn't been done yet. Another thing I did off camera is I was having issues with the seals for the saddlebags. So I went to my local hardware store and I picked up some Auto and Marine weather stripping. The large I used for the big seal on the box, and the small I used for the top box, as they were leaking. So this side has new seals. I need to get another roll of the large. Tomorrow I'll go to the hardware store. I'll get another roll of this, because I used almost the whole roll. I've got, I don't know, maybe 4.5 foot left. Not even, probably like, yeah, maybe 4 foot left, but I don't think it's going to be enough. It's definitely not going to be enough. It's less than half, so I can't do the other side. But with the small stuff, I will have some left over. So with what I have left over, I'll end up putting that in the seal around the radio that's sitting over there. It sits around the radio bezel. So I can put a touchscreen in there, because that's something I was thinking about doing, but not necessarily today or tomorrow. But I've got the battery hooked up on the tender, and next thing I can do is pull these side fairings out, and then we're gonna eat some food. Cool. So I've got Little Hands in the shop with me. Today we are working on getting spark plugs free. Little Hands is learning how to do the back spark plugs on this thing. I believe off camera, I don't think Stitches used his camera. He went and he put diff fluid in the rear diff. We got the new tire on. He put the rear brake caliper on this side and bled the brakes for me. And he put the luggage bags back on with the 410mm bolts. So now I'm gonna have Little Hands take the 2 rear spark plugs out, and I'm gonna slide these plastics back, and I'm gonna get at the front 2 spark plugs because it's kind of the way that I think I can get it. So we're teaching him, and we're gonna go from there. I also did recover the seats, so here's the new leather on this seat, and here's the new leather on this seat. I'm hoping that once the weather warms up a little bit, it takes some of the wrinkles out of it. Unfortunately, the original seats had pads in them that were kind of glued to the foam and glued to the seat themselves, so there's a little bit of an air pocket. Not really too happy with that, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Me and Shaky Hands are heading home, but I should have filmed it, but I didn't. But let me tell you guys, those front spark plugs, especially the one on the right side, were a son of a gun. The one on the right side, you've got all those coolant lines and everything. I used the stubby 3/8 ratchet with the 18 socket, and I mean, I fought. Thank goodness the ratchets we have in the shop are all super fine teeth, because if it was like a Craftsman ratchet or something, I don't think I would have been able to get that done. The left side was a bit easier. The screws on the bottom of my cowls, for the bottom cowls, are rusted out. So I took the Phillips head in the front, the Phillips head in the back, and the Phillips head in the vent off, and that bottom Phillips stayed on. And I kind of just bent the bracket down a little bit, and I snuck my hand in there. I don't think Stitches would have been able to do those front spark plugs, because I think his hands are too big. I just don't think he would have physically had the space. But we got them done, we got them knocked out, and for now, I'm heading home because I got a couple things to do at home. But tomorrow, we're gonna see what we can do to finish up the bike. All right, next day, spark plugs are done. I got a new battery in the bike. Unfortunately, there were some jumper wires that were floating around the bike, and I hooked up a ground to the hot side. Found it. Here's the wire. This is what happens when you hook a ground up to the hot side. So I just went through the wiring harness to figure out where it is, what it does. I had to pull this front top fairing off. So I'm getting a look at the wiring here. I did one of these little jammers. I had to cut the wire back to access where it was no longer melty. But the battery's in. I filled the fuel tank. Going through, cleaning up some of this other crap like this. One of the previous owners wired up a radio, and they used, for the ground, which is going to black here on the radio, goes to this red wire. I don't like that kind of stuff. I like to keep my blacks as grounds and my reds as positives. But whatever. Pulling the fairing off is pretty easy. I've got a screw up here under the little cowling that covers the windshield. You've got 2 screws in the front that sit behind the vanity plate with the emblem. So there's 2 Phillips there, and then 2 larger Phillips. 2 Phillips on the bottom. Phillips that sits right here. Phillips that sits right here. And one here and one there. So on the cowling, you've got this one on the top, these 2, that guy, and those guys. So I'm gonna dig into this a little more. I really wanted to finish the bike up tonight, or at least as much as possible, but little stuff like this is kind of putting a damper in my progress. I did manage to get that side's plastic piece plasti welded. A bunch of plasti welds, but they're all on the inside, so it's all good. And yeah, I'm gonna probably clean up some of this stuff that's here while I'm here and I have the panels off the bike. And yeah. Cavalcade's back together. Obviously, I missed a couple steps here. We got some brake fluid on that side, so I put some WD-40 on it to try and bring some of the moisture back to the plastics. I had to take this right fairing off because I shorted a wire that went to the battery, but I fixed that. I had to cut it back pretty far. I've got all the fairings mounted back up. New seat covers are on. They look fantastic. I've got the luggage bags. They're excellent. I put seafoam in the gas tank, and then I filled it up with ethanol-free gas. So right now I'm gonna let it run until it gets hot, kind of clear out some of the shit that's in the carburetor. You can see it's smoking a little bit when I give it gas. Man, this thing sounds good though. I've got to put this cover back on. I started cleaning up in here, but I got to do a better job cleaning up in here. I swapped out the screws for the speaker because I don't like the flatheads. Radio doesn't work, so we can't test the speakers to see if they work. But I think I'm going to look into maybe a waterproof doubled in, see if I can get something like that mounted in here. Stitch just went through and he cleaned the switch for the brakes. So rear brake lights work from the front and the rear. There was a whole bunch of crap we did that we didn't film. Like, we went through, I pulled this out, I re-greased in here. I don't know if you can see, fresh grease in there. I took sandpaper and I cleaned the inside of the foot brake, and I also added grease to the channel in the middle there. It's got new spark plugs. I can't find an air filter for it, but there's a mod where people put foam filters, so I'm gonna look into that maybe. Seat cover got changed. I still have to do the secondary gear oil, but aside from that, the diff fluid's been changed, engine oil's been changed, coolant's topped off. I'm gonna order new grips. We have an idea that we'll show you guys for this, for the choke, but when that comes in, we'll show you. I disassembled this whole control here because the left blinker was sticking. It's got like some auto cancel feature or something, but it's not sticking anymore. Horn works, high beam, low beam, blinkers work, brake lights work, clutch works. She needs a good bath. Previous owner had buffed it. One of the previous owners. I'm the third owner. So it was either the guy I bought it from or the guy prior to him buffed the thing. So there's a little bit of compound that I'm finding here and there. But all in all, it's a clean bike. And she's running good. And I mean, let's be honest, who can get over this sound? Sounds beautiful. So I'll let her run for a few more minutes here and then I'll check back with you guys. All right, just to recap this week's video, I picked up a 1986 Suzuki Cavalcade, went through, cleaned it up, gave it a tune-up, fixed a couple electrical issues, still got a couple little things to do, changed the spark plugs, changed all the fluids in it, I recovered the seats with new seat covers, I replaced the seals in the saddlebags, cleaned up the saddlebags, just all around cleaned up the bike. It got new tires, it got new brakes. We did poor man's rebuilds on the calipers, both fronts and the rear. It got new tires. I mean, that's... No, we did. It got new tires, new brakes. We did poor man's rebuilds on the calipers. I rebuilt the front master cylinder. We drained all the fluids. But yeah, I mean, that's our recap. If you guys like this kind of content, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell to stay up to date, see what we're working on next week.
And we'll see you next time.